So, hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about and demonstrating how to do indexing, which is a key component of making sure that your bike is working properly. So the gears don't jump around independently of you changing gears. And I have Richie, as you can see, next to me there. Richie, who's going to be demonstrating, because Richie is far more adept at teaching people how to do indexing than I am. So I'm going to pin Richie, so it should be a big screen now, and he is going to talk you through it. Richie, can you hear me? You froze there. Typical.
And you froze too.
Typical gremlins. So over to you. So there might be a bit of dropout occasionally with internet connection. It's what happens when you've got lots of gizmos all taken. Okay, Richie, over to you.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks for setting this up. Okay, so I have my daughter's bike, Naomi's bike here. So it's quite a few years old. It kind of hangs around in the back garden, so it does get rained upon sort of quite a lot. And I do have to try and index the gears now and again. But a few things before you actually go into indexing, just to check. One thing is, if you are jumping gears, is to make sure that your hanger alignment is actually straight. So if I just swing this around, so you can see the hanger here coming down here. Now, if that's closer to the back wheel, that means you've pushed the derailleur in, and that's probably causing one of the problems with misjumping. And now I'm not going to tell you how to bend it back out again, because if you do it wrong, you could either snap the rear derailleur or at the hinge point here, or bend the jockey wheels down here. So if you do find that it's bent, take it to a bike shop. They'll be able to sort of readjust it. Sigma will be able to do it. There's also more cycles in Teddington and Twickenham who are on the cheaper side of general bike maintenance. They're pretty good. I've used them a couple of times. But yeah, don't try, unless you've done it before, you know exactly what you're doing. Don't try and bend it back into position, whatever you do. The other thing is to take a look at how worn your cables are. It could be, we're going to be playing around with this this roll here. And so if you see that you're getting right to the edge, and if you adjust this anymore, it actually comes out, it could be the fact that you need to undo here and just readjust. And I'll show you that in a minute. The last thing is to make sure that your chain is clean and lubed up. So it could be just very, very simple, that you need to just clean it up, put some lube on it, and it will actually work a treat. I use one of these as a cleaners, if you can see that. And all it does is kind of fixes onto the chain here, wound it back a few times for a couple of minutes. Here we go. I use some Muc-Off degreaser on there. It works really well. Get a brush, one of these brushes, or even a toothbrush, just to kind of clean up the chain. And then finally, everyone should have some lube. So I use dry lube, which is a pretty good old Muc-Off stuff. Not that I'm selling any of that, you know. So once that's done, and you're this is all in alignment, you got a clean drivetrain, and it's still jumping, then we can start taking a look at how to resolve that. So what happens with cables is that they stretch. Now, the derailleur under a mechanical is always under tension. There's a big spring behind here, so it wants to pull out all the time. So when you move in, it's pulling the cable up here to then pull the cable towards the wheel. Now, if you think about it, if the cable stretches, it's going to move outwards a little bit, okay? So the problem that we're going to have to do is try and tighten up the cable a little bit more, and that's what this barrel adjuster does. So I broken naming his bike in the fact of it doesn't, it's on his highest gear there. I've tried going back up and nothing's happened. I'll do it again. It's only just going, it should be in third from the bottom, from the top, but it's actually, it's quite a way away. And then if I go all the way to the top, there you go. It's not getting into the top properly. I'll come back down again. It's going to, there you go. It's going to start jumping. So best thing to do, get it in the big ring at the front. Okay, just stop that. And then what you're going to do is take your thumb and put it on top of the barrel adjustment. Okay. Now the easiest thing is if you can tell that you're jumping down where you should be in third gear and it jumps to the fourth gear, that means you need to move the derailleur towards the wheel. So your thumb moves towards the wheel. Okay. So that will move the derailleur towards it. So remember, thumb on top and twist your thumb towards the wheel, and that will start to move the derailleur towards the wheel. If you realise that you're on, for example, the fifth gear and it's jumping to third instead of getting to fourth, then that means you've got to try and move it out because it's jumping towards the wheel a little bit too much. So again, thumb on top and then move it away from the wheel if you're actually going up. It's like jumping up towards, you know, from 3 to 1 or sort of 5 to 3 or something like that. Generally, it will be because the cable is stretched, and so you just need to you probably just need to turn it in towards the wheel. That's usually every time, unless you've actually just recabled everything, and then you're still kind of playing around with the adjustment. If it is really loose, you can see that there's an Allen key here. So bring it all the way down into the high gear. And that means it's much easier to change the barrel adjustment. When it's right on the lowest gear or the big cog right at the back, it's really difficult to try and turn this around. Undo this and then just pull a little bit more and then tension it back up again, and then you can start playing around with the barrel adjustment here to start fixing it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and fix names back again. As you can see, I tried, so that should be in the, you can hear quite a lot of noise there, it's quite horrible. So what I'm going to do is start turning in towards there, into the wheel. Nearly got, there you go. It's now going to the second one, but because it's a cable system, it needs kind of resets up here. So I'm going to like put it back down into the highest. Now, when I say highest, that's the smallest. Low gear is right at the top here, high gear right down here. Okay, so I'm going to try that again. There we go. So let's see how it goes up. So that kind of missed slightly, but it's back in. So let's see how it goes. Right, it's not going into the next one. So I know that I need to just adjust it a little more, just half a turn. Let's see how it goes. Drop it back down, just to reset it, and then back in. There we go. That's much, much better. And then check all the way to the top. Let's see if it makes sure that I haven't gone too far and it starts skipping all the way back down again. Okay, that's much better. Oh no, actually, this is a Claris, Shimano Claris Group set. It's 8 gears. Not one of the most finest ones, but you know, so like a 105-year-old Tegra Dura-Ace if you've got that. It still works, but it's not exactly the greatest. So it could be the fact that the components are a little bit worn as well. This is quite an old bike now. Okay, so now we're getting to the point of, yep, that's looking good. There we are. So now we're able to go all the way up the block and back down again. And it engages each time. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention is limiter screws. You don't need to change these unless you start having a problem that the chain starts coming off the end of the sprocket and starts getting wedged in between the frame, or actually goes over the top there. If you've got problems like that, then you're going to need to change your winter screws. We can do that at another time. If it's just simple, it's jumping, then you just need to adjust the barrel adjuster.
Excellent. That was actually very informative, which I don't do my bike repairs. I take it to a shop, but made it quite simple there. So obviously it's an advantage if you've got a bike stand. So what would you suggest to people that don't have a bike stand? How could they do it without a bike stand?
Yeah, well, yeah, before I got the bike stand, I used to set it up on turbo. And so I used to have a wheel on turbo. And so instead of it actually collapsing onto the drive wheel, I just bring it up just a little bit so it can actually just so go freely. Works either for a wheel on turbo or a direct drive. So it works exactly the same. So as long as you can turn the pedals and adjust the barrel adjust at the same time.
Excellent. So,
or if you've got a friend, you can just your friend can just hang on to the saddle while you change it. And you see, it doesn't take that long to do. So it's only kind of like a 5-minute job to get it right.
Yeah, you actually made it look quite simple there. Always a bit random, but no, that was great. So what would you do if you had a Di2 bike?
Right, a Di2 bike. So what I'm going to have to do is switch over to my other bike. So if you just give me a couple of seconds, or a minute, should I say, I'll just take this off. Please amuse yourself whilst I'm just doing this.
I suppose you could use some kind of coat hanger device hanging up on a door frame if you didn't have a stand.
What's that say again?
Some kind of coat hanger device, like a hook, which you could hook the frame onto.
Possibly, yeah. Anything which will actually bring the back end, the rear wheel off the ground, would actually be absolutely fine. Right, okay. So I'm working in a very small room, so I do apologise if I.
Once you've got the mic up, well, you can probably explain it whilst you're setting it up. What is a Di2 for those that don't know what a Di2 is?
Yeah, well, we should actually call it electronic shifting, because obviously SRAM have their ETAP system. So Di2 is the Shimano version for electronic shifting. But anything that you have that doesn't have any cables to shift will have a battery and cables, electric cables. You'll have a control box there. Now let's try and get this on here. Bike's a little bit bigger than things. Okay, there we go. All right. So hopefully we can see that. Right, okay, so as you can see, derailleur looks exactly the same, apart from we've got an electric cable here, which, let me just tilt that back up again. An electric cable, so coming all the way down here now, there's a battery in here. The controllers are just a simple click, and not the mechanical shift going across there. Now, I'm not going to go and change this because it's all set up. Now, the great thing with Di2 and electronic shifting is the fact that you don't need to ensure that it will go into each and every cog. Set it up for one cog, and it knows exactly how far it needs to throw to go onto the next one up. So you know that you're not going to have to play around too much with this. Now, if you have got a Di2 bike and it starts misshifting, again, it's probably because you bent the derailleur. There's not many times where if you set this up and you haven't damaged the bike, it will just normally just shift and it won't be a problem. Same as again with Naomi's bike, make sure that you've cleaned it, you've lubed it, and everything's okay. Generally that will be the problem. But if for some reason you check the derailleur alignment and it's still misshifting, what you need to do is find the control box. Now on newer bikes, it will either be this control box here, or at the bar end here. I've also seen it on the down tube, and sometimes at the back of the seat post as well. depending where it is. My time trial bike, it's actually, there's the way that it's set up is actually just in the steerer tube, just down here, hidden. So it depends where it is. There will always be one of these. So underneath here, there's a little button. And so what you need to do is push that. And you can see the red light has come on there. Okay, you might not be able to see it, but there is a solid red light. That's now in adjustment mode. So what that means is I can use the right shifter to move it out just a little bit. Now that moves by about 0.2 of a millimeter, and then you can move it back in. So if you look from the back of the bike, oh, actually, if I can actually see that, if I move it to the right, it moves it out, move it to the left, then it moves it back in again. So only very, very tiny amounts, because obviously with the barrel adjuster, you turn it a quarter turn or a half a turn, and it moves it very, very slightly. But with the Di2, again, you use it with these. Now, generally, you have the chain in the middle of the block. You don't need to go to the extremes. And then after that, take it back out of adjustment mode. Just click it again. There we go. And then you'd be able to so use the bike as normal with a very noisy hub. So there we are, Di2. SRAM should be exactly the same, so be able to go into the adjustment mode and then using the gears. So maybe able to just confirm with that whoever has SRAM in the club.
Excellent. That was brilliant, Richie. Very informative. I think I might even be able to do it myself now.
Make sure it's clean.
Yes, that is the main problem. So most people, when I say most people who aren't obsessed with their bikes, i.e. they don't sleep with it in their bedroom or in their bathtub, they don't bother cleaning their bikes that often. So grease and dirt can obviously spray up from the road, especially at the moment with wet roads, and it can make the chain set and the cassette really grubby. The cassette, by the way, guys, in case you don't know terminology, is all the cogs on the back. That is called a cassette, or cogs, or gears, different, or block. It's also called a block sometimes. So that's the different terminologies you need. But yes, cycling at the moment, especially when it's gritty and there's lots of spray on the road, a lot of water on the road, it will get very dirty. All the oil from the cars kicks up onto the road and clogs up the chain. So what Richie was saying there about cleaning the chain is pretty important. I suspect that is most people's problem when it comes to chains jumping. Their bike just isn't clean enough. It's unusual that the rear mech would be bent in most cases, unless it's fallen on the floor or you've placed it on the floor wrong. So whenever I'm chaining the juniors, I always tell them to place the cassette side up so it's not going to impact that area. But that was fantastic. So if anybody's got any questions, don't be shy to email either Richie or myself, and I will just forward it to Richie to ask any questions. But that should be a really helpful short video to help you index your gears, whether you've got electronic gears or normal gears. Fantastic, Richie. Thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Stop the recording. Well done.